The US stock market has experienced a great level of volatility, and this came right after President Trump announcing his new tariffs plan. So this new initiative has injected a great deal of uncertainty into the prospects of the global economy, and by extension, the global equities market. And for those of you who have been invested since the start of the year, it seems like all of these happened in a flash, and you can probably appreciate what this meme is trying to deliver. So what exactly happened? So this new Trump tariff has wiped out more than 2.5 trillion US dollars from the US stock market from yesterday alone. And when we look at the broad-based US indexes across the board, S&P was down roughly 4.8%, the Dow Jones was down 3.9%, Nasdaq was down roughly 6%, and the Russell 2000, which monitors the small caps, are down close to 7%. And when we look at a very common indicator to kind of have a pulse check in terms of what investors are thinking about in today's market sentiments, we are currently sitting at an extreme fear level at only 8 out of 100 points. And I was then curious, so I went ahead to GPT and asked what was the lowest level we have seen in terms of the fear and greed index in the past two bear markets. At least in the 2022 inflation bear market, the index actually only fell to 14 points, while in the COVID pandemic, it actually went to as low as 2 points. Donald Trump is probably a little bit scarier than the inflation bear, but not as scary as a global pandemic. Now, we have seen headlines coming out from major sources saying that both the S&P and the Nasdaq has dropped the most since 2020. And to have a better appreciation of where the index is sitting at today, the Dow is down 4.3% year to date, S&P negative 8%, and the Nasdaq negative 14%. But if you take a contrast from their peak levels, the Dow has officially went into correction territory, the S&P is down 12%, while the Nasdaq is actually flirting with the bear market territory, where the technical definition of a bear market is a drawdown of more than 20%. And for those of you who are avid consumers of financial news on social media, you are probably inundated by a barrage of these sort of content. I'm talking to you about what are the consequences of tariffs, how bad this bear market is, and what you can or cannot expect. And I think one tariff video that you must watch is definitely from Adam. I'll leave the link in the description below. He basically just gave you an outline in terms of Trump's current tariff plans, a preliminary analysis of how the trading partners have reacted, the consequences of these tariffs on the different types of stocks and businesses that you might or might not have in your portfolio, and of course, how to think about investing during volatile times. So that's it. I think specifically in this video, we're going to talk a little bit more in terms of investor psychology and how you should look at investing. But before that, I think amidst all these market volatility, I have something really exciting to share. So Piranha Profits have just launched our brand new weekly investing newsletter called Investing Bites. So every week, we'll actually bring you bite-sized investing lessons, real-world stories, and also timeless investing wisdom straight to your inbox. Plus, at the start of each month, we'll actually highlight one company that is currently on our radar, coupled with our team's own in-depth analysis of that company itself. So sign up now using the link down below to get the latest issue of Piranha's Radar straight to your inbox. Now, let's get back to the video. So I think the most intuitive question any investor that is trying to navigate the current market climate that might probably feel lost, confused, or even worried about his entire stock portfolio, what can he or she do to feel better? So we have 3 specific tips that we'd like to share in this video. I think firstly, please stay calm and don't panic sell. Second, take a cold hard look at your current portfolio and know what you own and why you own them. And thirdly, of course, is to focus on the business fundamentals and have a long-term horizon. So personally, after being in this investing game for quite some time now, I think the first cardinal sin is always to have this backside itch in trying to time the market. We have seen many people trying to outmaneuver the market by thinking that they can sell at a very high price and then coming in at a much lower price after the market corrects down. But do remember that when you are making an active decision in trying to sell out your entire portfolio and coming back in later, you don't have to be right once. You have to be right 2 times. You have to sell out today, which is at a high price, and then come back in at a lower price. But more often than not, we always see a lot of people, quote unquote, missing the boat because when the stock price start to fall 5, 10, 15% from your last exit price, you don't necessarily know whether it's a good time to buy or whether the market will continue correcting down. So some people tend to wait, look at the sidelines, monitor the market. Now, I believe that this infographic is probably one that you have seen if you're a veteran investor. It's really trying to highlight the opportunity cost of trying to time the market. And just looking at the performance over the last 20 years, from 2004 to 2023, if you remain fully invested, your annual return will work out to be roughly 9.7%. But if you just miss the 10 best days within this 20-year period, your annual returns, CAGR, will actually drop by almost half, from 9.7 to 5.5%. And what happens if you actually miss the 30 best days? Actually, your returns is negligible at roughly 0.7% per year, and so on and so forth. I think you'll get the point. And I think a larger point that people tend to forget is really this idea of a clustering effect in the stock market. So just by looking at some of these past corrections or even bear markets, actually the highs and lows of some of this performance actually cluster very closely together. So looking at March 2020, for example, March the 12th, it was the second worst day in the last 20 years, and the S&P experienced a negative 9.5% decline in a single candlestick. And subsequently on Friday, it went up 9.32%, and it's the fourth best day in 20 years. And right after the market closed, following that weekend on Monday, and they experienced another huge red candle at negative 12%. And looking back in some of these other moments, in the month of August of 2015, Tuesday the 24th was the worst day of the year, while 2 days later, on the 26th, it's the best day of the year. A similar story can be said for the month of December in 2018. 24th was the 6th worst day of the year, and 26th was actually the best day of the year. So what's the lesson that we can take away from here? I think just know that the stock market can be crazier than my girlfriend and my mother combined. But jokes aside, I think the clearer picture here is that we really cannot predict with certainty into understanding how the stock market would perform tomorrow, the day after, or the week after. So I believe just by judging at the mechanism that is at play here, based on the historical performance, I think it's pretty dangerous to have the mindset that, yes, I'll put my face down today and I want to be a market timer. Right after us experiencing one of the largest drawdowns in the past 5 years. General principle, at least at Piranha Profits, is that we highly discourage people from trying to time the market, at least for long-term buy and hold investors. Then, some of you might ask, when is actually a good time to exit or sell a stock? So internally, when we look at some of these guiding principles that we have for ourselves and even for our community, we actually adopt a bottoms-up approach. Meaning to say, we scrutinize the exact stock or the particular business that we are talking about here, and never really about what we expect of the macro economy or the general sentiments of the stock market. So some of the valid reasons to sell include when the business is no longer great, when the management does not act in the best interest of shareholders, when the stock price is grossly overvalued, or when you find another stock that is just as great or even better. Or lastly, you just need cash to fund your personal expenses. Notice, we never talk about the general markets, macroeconomic news, some sort of a crisis in the horizon, etc., etc. And don't forget, markets always climb on a wall of worry. And the following are not valid reasons to sell. Things like trying to market time, selling in a panic due to a correction or even a bear market, or trying to predict when a stock market crash or a recession is coming. So the stock market is like having a relationship. If you can't handle me and my worst, then I think you don't deserve me and my best. So looking at a cycle of market emotions, do feel free to leave in the comment section down below on where you think we are currently at. So judging based on the commentaries and my own anecdotal experience, I think we are probably in the anxiety and the denial stage. So maybe a bit of the fearful territory, but not so much in the panic stage yet. Maybe if major US indexes continue to go down by another 10 to 20%, then I can probably expect more investors hitting the panic button. So now, moving on to our second tip, which is to relook and to reassess your current portfolio. So I think the first step, which is an extension of the first tip, is to first take a deep breath and to don't react out of fear. So if you cannot stand to actually look at the absolute amount of losses that you see in your brokerage statement, I think some brokers actually allow you to hide the figure. So all you see will be asterisks in your portfolio. So if that helps you better manage your emotions, I think please adopt your own coping mechanism. So step number 2 is to actually revisit all your investment thesis and research notes of every single company in your portfolio. Hopefully, you have actually written them down somewhere, or at least have some mental notes about it. So you can ask certain questions like, why did you bought the stock in the first place? What characteristics of the businesses were you initially attracted to? And why was it a good long-term hold back then when you bought at a certain X price of an X company? So has anything major changed in between when the price of purchase versus today? Especially if there are any structural changes that's going to be impacted down the line. Now the third step, which is also the most important step, is to have a sound methodology to assess the quality of the stocks in your portfolio today. So some things you can ask is that, do they still fit your criteria today? Does the stock or the particular instrument fit the purpose and objective of your portfolio? Maybe you can also even ask yourself, if I don't own this particular company or stock today, would I still buy it now? Despite all this volatility and people fear-mongering you. And lastly, it's important to differentiate between a bad stock versus a bad day. And is this bad day a good opportunity in disguise for you to actually add more to your exposure? So over here, the PP way is where we use our 7-step VMI investment analysis framework to look at the portfolio of companies that we own. So some of these key criteria include consistently increasing sales, net income and cash flow, positive growth rates, sustainable economic advantage, or some of you might call it economic moat. They are profitable and operationally efficient. Conservative debt structure. Is the current valuation below or even near intrinsic value? And is it a great point of entry? So this is our own VMI framework, and you should probably have your own framework when looking at investing into companies. And if you don't, I think it's time to adopt one soon, especially in an upcoming bear market where a lot of these stocks and businesses start to go on sale. And the last tip on the list is to focus on business fundamentals. And I think this cannot be stressed enough. I'd like to redirect, re-emphasize, and to reiterate this point. Focus on business fundamentals. So I went back to extract the letter to shareholder of Amazon back in the 2000 dot-com crisis, and this is what Jeff Bezos has to say to his shareholders. Ouch! It's been a brutal year for many in the capital markets, and certainly for Amazon.com shareholder. As of this writing, our shares are down more than 80% from when I wrote to you last year. Nevertheless, by almost any other measures, Amazon.com, the company, is in a stronger position now than at any time in its past. So we have served 20 million customers in 2000, up from 14 million a year ago. Sales grew to 2.76 billion from 1.64 billion a year ago. Pro forma operating loss actually shrank to 6% of sales from 26% of sales. And you get the point. The business continued to grow, continued to execute, but the share price speaks a completely different story. And as we know, the story of Amazon stock benefiting shareholders phenomenally over the past 2-3 decades. And Jeff Bezos reminded investors that, as the famed investor Benjamin Graham said, in the short term, the stock market is a voting machine. In the long term, it's a weighing machine. Clearly, there was a lot of voting going on in the boom year of 99 and much less weighing. In the meantime, we have our heads down working to build a heavier and heavier company. And by focusing on the long term, just judging the S&P 500 total stock market return on a rolling 20-year period from 1919 to 2024, meaning to say we have more than 100 years of history, and in any 20-year rolling stock market period, there was no negative return. And it really paid investors to stay in it for the long haul. And this is regardless of at what valuation did the stock investor enter the market. And over the last 100 years history, we have experienced stock market valuations being more priced expensively or cheaply. But irrespective of that, on a 20-year time horizon, the S&P 500 always delivered positive returns. And even at its lowest in the 1950s period, they still experienced a minimally 3 to 5% return per annum. But on average, I think we all know the returns profile that you can expect from the S&P is roughly between 7 to 10%. And now we have arrived to the last slide. I'm not saying that the market has already bottomed and to throw in the entire kitchen sink and to catch this falling knife. Because truth be told, like I've alluded previously, nobody knows when the market would bottom. So you should make the personal decision on how conservative or aggressive you want to be in terms of deploying your capital into the markets. But what I'd like to emphasize here is that you should accept what's out of your control and to focus on what you can control. So clearly, you are unable to control macro headlines. Markets in the short term often move on emotions, not logic, and Mr. Market will come to your door daily, knocking on the door, telling you to sell or buy stocks from him. So it's really up to your own discretion, and you should be armed with the necessary tools to know whether this company today is offering at a bargain discount or whether it's still expensive. And trying to fight or even time the market often tend to make you much more frustrated in the long term. And of course, volatility does not equate to risk. It's an opportunity in disguise. So focus on the process, don't look at the noise, and this is CK from Piranha Profit signing off. Till next time, keep winning.